Hello and welcome to Credit Versio's Q&A Wednesday live for June 2nd. I am your host, David Michalek. I am a consumer credit expert with almost 9 years experience. It'll be 9 years this year. And that experience is focused on credit repair and credit education. I've conducted over 10,000 one-on-one credit consultations, which resulted in millions of disputes and hundreds of thousands of inaccurate accounts being deleted from credit reports. And I'm very much looking forward to sharing with you what I've learned all those years on our weekly Q&A calls, Wednesday on both Facebook and YouTube. So please take a second, introduce yourself, and let me know where you're from. If you have a question, please post it now just in case we get a little backed up like we did last week when John was on with me. I had to go scrolling through all the comments to make sure that I didn't miss anybody. Okay, very good. Mike, you are as constant as the northern star, my friend. Always here. Portia, welcome. Okay, and I got your question, Portia. We'll get to that in just a second. Very good. North Carolina, great, welcome. Okay, before we get started, I have some very exciting news. In fact, I would venture to say that this is the most exciting news that I've ever been able to share in my almost 9 years in this industry. And I think that this is probably one of the most amazing and interesting things that has taken place in credit repair, period. So we haven't made an official announcement yet. You're the first to hear this. And I'm going to set the stage a little bit by giving you a little bit of background. So the entire credit repair industry is all about disputing negative accounts. Bankruptcy, charge-off collections, late payments, repos, foreclosure, whatever it is that you want to delete, it's technically classified as a negative account. Nobody's going to try disputing positive accounts for the most part. And when you dispute negative accounts, you're challenging the information. But here's something that I think you'll find very interesting. Accounts only get deleted when there's an error or a violation of the law or a mistake. In fact, to be specific, if we're talking about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the language of the law is any account that's erroneous, outdated, incomplete, or unverifiable. Now, the burden of proof, this is when we send a letter to the credit bureau. When we're creating our dispute, we send our dispute off. The burden of proof, the burden of performance is on we'll just call them data furnishers, the creditor, the collection company, whoever is reporting the information. So the burden of performance and proof is on the data furnisher and the bureau. And they'll delete the account or repair the account if it has a mistake or an error, something that violates the law. Now, here's a part that people just don't really question. We don't wonder what the mistake was. In fact, a lot of people don't even realize that's what's going on behind the scenes. Somewhere on that account, there was something that was wrong with it, where maybe it was unverifiable, maybe there was something that was just grossly wrong with the account that the data furnisher or the bureau said, you know what, there's risk if we leave this here, let's get rid of it. And a lot of the times when you get that letter back that says, or that email that says this account has been deleted, there isn't like an outline of exactly why. It's not like they're going to say, hey, we found these 3 things on the account that we think might have been in violation of the law, therefore we've removed it. It just goes away. So the question is, what if you could find mistakes on the credit report? And rather than just shooting your shot and disputing the negative account, keeping your fingers crossed, and this is making the assumption you don't have anything specific that you're disputing, but I mean, come on, let's be honest. I've been in this business a long time. I've had this conversation thousands of times. A lot of people who are disputing things on their credit report are trying to get it deleted, whether or not they think there's a mistake. And these mistakes that are on credit reports, if you could argue them, would make a much, much more powerful dispute. Mistakes that are pretty common, like re-aging. This happens on both trade lines, so credit cards, cars, real estate, and also collection accounts. This is when the open date changes. Maybe it changed for no reason. Maybe you disputed it and they updated it and it changed. Anything that's new, that's been re-aged, especially if it's a negative account, can do damage. Okay, it can lower the credit score. What about closed accounts? close derogatory accounts that say that they're currently late. There's a zero balance, but it says you're 120 days late or 80 days late. Okay, that's a very real thing that happens. Charge-offs, where the creditor said that they wrote off the debt as a loss, but there's still a balance. Now, that's not a violation, but it's certainly a contrast in the facts that are being presented. Certainly would make a good dispute, I would think. What about accounts that have a balance that were included in bankruptcy? Bankruptcy wipes out debt, and you have an account that was opened before bankruptcy still has a balance. This is something that we see. Another one, and this is a big one, as far as what it can do damage-wise, and as far as certainly being unfair, are collection accounts that were deleted maybe months ago. Maybe you did a dispute months ago, and the account was deleted, but it was bought by another collection company, and now it's being re-reported. Okay, that's something that can happen, but if it was deleted the first time, why can some other secondary or some other collection company come back and report it and buy that debt and report it, especially when it was deleted the first time? So these are the most common mistakes, and these are things that we are seeing on better than 80% of the people who are subscribed to Credit Versio, and most people don't know that they've got them. Or if they do, they don't necessarily know what to do about them. So for the last 6 months, our development team has been working on a project called Error Sweeper. And its purpose is to expand the capability of the AI and the software to not just find negative information, but to find mistakes on the accounts themselves. This is huge. I wish I could give you a pill so you would understand this industry, like convey to you the years that I've been doing this, so you have an understanding of how massive this is. I was given a note by my partner that's sitting across from me. It's 93% of our clients have these mistakes on them. So what Error Sweeper does is it's looking for mistakes. It's comparing each account across 3 bureaus, pitting them against each other, making sure that the information lines up, not just that report, but going back to the previous report and the one before that. All the reports that you might have in Credit Versio, looking for even the slightest mistake. And then, what's the benefit of this? To give you the correct dispute reason based on the mistake, on what account it is, what bureau it's on, and when it happened. To give you some perspective, this would take hours for a credit expert to pull off. Even myself, even if I were to look at credit reports side by side and try to find mistakes like this, it's hard work, and there's no guarantee that I'm not going to miss something. Okay. I just got to, looks like everything is going smoothly. When my screen freezes up like this, I get a little bit nervous. Okay. So this is why no credit repair company can do this at scale. It's very difficult to do. It's very labor intensive. So the exciting news is Error Sweeper was activated on all Credit Versio accounts yesterday. This is live. This isn't something that we're working on. This isn't something that's theoretical. This is live and now functioning, and it's live on credit reports that have come in since yesterday. So what's going to happen now is all credit reports are being scanned by Error Sweeper, and when it finds these mistakes, is going to suggest a new dispute reason in the drop-down menu that is specific to that kind of mistake. So I hope you're excited about it. I am. I mean, we've been losing sleep over this for weeks and weeks now, and now that it's live, we are incredibly excited about it. Okay, thank you so much for listening to that. I got a lot of comments here. It looks like, let me know. It looks like the broadcast is being paused. Let me know if you see any connection issues. Okay, maybe it's just on my end. All right, excellent. Okay, so let's go through here. Portia, I saw that you were first up. I want to answer the questions. If you have any questions about Error Sweeper, not air like as in air we breathe, it's error as in mistakes. Okay, I want to know, how can I find out which collections I can. Well, you probably won't know up front which ones are in violation or not. So there's this great piece of legislation called the FDCPA, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And it's a guideline, an instruction sheet essentially for what a collection company has to do in order to prove that they have a legal right to collect. And when you send a dispute, and this is a dispute reason that Credit Versio is going to present to you, the dispute reason is going to say something along the lines of, hey, I don't have any kind of contract with this collection company. Please prove that they have a legal right to collect. In the FDCPA, what a collection company has to do is they have to prove a legal right to collect, that they can get the money from you. There's certain things they have to provide. And the reason for that is what used to be a problem before the FDCPA was written was, let's just say you had a debt with Citibank, Visa, and it went into default, it was charged off, and Citibank decided they wanted to sell that to Midland Funding. So Midland calls you up, you make an arrangement with them, you pay it for pennies on the dollar, and then 2 months later, 3 months later, Enhanced Recovery calls you and says, no, we own that debt. That's not Midland's debt. So there's a real problem with debt being bought on spreadsheets from one collection company to another without them proving who is the owner of that debt. So what you're doing, Portia, in this dispute process, when Credit Versio identifies the collections on your account, is going to present to you a suggested reason. Now, let me give my disclosure here. The best dispute reason is always the one that describes why the account should not be on your credit report. If you see errors, if you see something that is clearly wrong, that's your dispute reason, and use a custom reason. Apart from that, let's just say, hey, listen, I want to dispute this. I know the burden of proof and performance is on the data furnisher and on the bureau. Let's just put it into their side of the court and see what they do with it. Then go with the suggested reason. And then remember, too, this is a multi-letter dispute process. This is a very common misunderstanding. It's one of the reasons why we made a really big point, a big push, too. When you sign up for Credit Versio, in tutorials and also in that welcome video, the first thing you're hit with is, hey, this is a multi-letter process. It would be great if you could send one dispute letter, one and done. Meaning the bureaus pass it along to the data furnisher. The data furnisher, whoever they are, did what's called a reasonable investigation. That's under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They did their due diligence. They made the right call, and everything is said and done. But it doesn't work that way. This is almost always a 3, 4, sometimes even a 5-letter process to even find out if the account can be deleted from your credit report. So just make another comment if you have any more questions on that. Okay, Michelle, hello, welcome. Scott back again. Hey, Scott, good to see you. Brian, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How you been? Are you doing anything more with late pays for federal student loans? I think, Brian, you would, well, first of all, a lot of student loans fell under the CARES Act. I think even, I'm not exactly sure, but I think some of this stuff you automatically got a stay during the CARES Act. Now, I think that might be coming to a close now. You might have to check. But one thing I have seen a lot of, whether you've asked for some kind of relief or not, give it a dispute. See what happens. Have you gone through the rehab program? Are your student loans in deferment? Are they charged off, Brian? Are they just late payments? So give me just a little bit more information on that on your student loan. I could probably give you a little bit better direction. Okay, collections bought by other collection companies. Oh, Portia, I think you're responding to what I was talking about with Air Sweeper. Okay, Johnson. I remember you from last week. Welcome back. Is it possible to remove late payments with Capital One Auto Finance? There's really nothing on a credit report that is special. All of them have to comply with the same laws under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, meaning they have to be accurate, they have to be verifiable, they can't be erroneous, outdated, or incomplete. When you dispute, again, any account, doesn't matter if it's a late payment from American Express or a charge-off from JCPenney. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Any account can be disputed, And again, the burden of proof, the burden of performance is always going to be on the data furnisher and the bureau to some degree. This is a great opportunity for me to take a second and explain why bureau disputes are important. You're gonna hear all kinds of positions on this. In fact, I had a friend of mine on one time, a gentleman by the name of Steve Rigger. One of my first Facebook Lives I did. Steve worked for TransUnion for 25 years, and a good chunk of that he ran the entire dispute division on the West Coast for TransUnion. And one comment he made was that, hey, it's best to do a dispute with the creditor directly. And that's true under certain circumstances. And what I mean by that is, if you have a very clear violation, let's say you had an agreement with that creditor and they didn't honor the agreement, you've got documentation, you got all proof, all your ducks in a row, yeah, a direct, and if it's the only thing you're disputing, a direct to creditor dispute is a great route to go. But that's not really what a lot of people are doing when they're trying to do credit repair. What they're trying to do is, whether they've got a reason that they know off the top of their head or not, or they're just shooting their shot, trying to see how much they can get shaken off the credit report, you want to go with a bureau dispute. The reason why you want to do that is because now you've recruited the credit bureaus into helping you. Ultimately, the bureaus are the ones that are responsible for the information on your credit report. So if things go south, if things go wrong, they're on the hook for it. Okay, this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but case in point. Years ago, I had Ocwen, which is like a subprime mortgage lender, out of the blue, report a second mortgage on my credit report that had foreclosed years prior, probably about 4 years prior, maybe 5. But it just showed up out of the blue. And I disputed this account. Ocwen didn't move. Equifax didn't move for whatever reason. And because it was on Equifax, even though Ocwen was the data furnisher, they were giving Equifax the data. But because it was a bureau dispute, Equifax was on the hook. Now, this is a very rare situation, but I ended up filing a lawsuit against Equifax and Ocwen, and I won. It was a settlement. I had to sign an NDA, so I can't say how much it was, but it was substantial enough to buy a nice older used car if that's what I wanted to do. So the point of the story is, when you dispute with the bureaus, this is not about lawsuits. It's about recruiting them to help you. The bureaus know that they're on the hook. So if you have a data furnisher, maybe a collection company, maybe an older debt from a creditor, and they're not moving, they're not helping you, you might get satisfaction, you might get movement from the bureau. The bureau might take it upon themselves to remove the item. So that's why you want to do bureau disputes. Okay, Johnson, I hope that answered your question. Again, there's nothing special about any account, really. A dispute's a dispute, and a data furnisher is a data furnisher. They all have to comply with the same set of laws. Thank you very much. I'm assuming, Mike, you're talking about Error Sweeper. Johnson, yes, I knew I was freezing there for a second, so hopefully I'm back. Just let me know if I have any issues. Mike with a question. So, David, I'm adding a credit card with a $25,000 limit. I have less than 3% debt. Will adding this credit card boost my score? Thanks. It's not going to hurt you, unless, of course, it's a brand new credit card. Then maybe. Is it an authorized user that's adding you? Did you get just approved by a new creditor? Mike, I think you and I might have had a conversation about that. I think that you just got approved from somebody. Yeah, okay, that's right. I remember. I think we had this conversation a day or two ago. It's going to help in the sense that now you've got this massive available credit. As long as you keep that, paid off, don't run up any credit card debt, this is something that's going to be a really big asset for you. Now, you might see a temporary drop in score. I don't remember your credit report, Mike. I think I did look at it at some point. I'm not sure how old your accounts are, how many accounts you've got, or if you had any big credit card debt to begin with. But when you add a substantial credit limit like that, if you have any other credit card debt, that's really going to help to offset it, especially if it's not a whole lot of debt. A couple areas where you might see a bit of a drop is now you got a brand new account, so your average age of accounts might drop a little bit. That's only about 15% of your score. So It may or may not do anything. You're going to have a brand new inquiry. Now, inquiries don't always affect credit scores. Uh, for example, if your scores are in the sevens, low eights, I saw this when I leased my last car. All my scores were in the high sevens, low 800s. Inquiry had no effect. The new car had no effect. So it depends. Anytime you ask a question about what's going to happen with my score, whether it's me or it's John who's on the line with me, will almost always respond to the question with "it depends," and it depends on a lot of things. But as a rule of thumb, Mike, anytime you add a credit account, a revolving credit account, is just good news for you. Okay, congratulations on that. Michelle, are you guys working on disputing addresses and names that are inaccurate? Yeah, Michelle, as a matter of fact, that's a template. Go into the tutorial section of your Credit Versio account. I know it's not a very intuitive place to where you think you'd find this, but go into tutorials and then into templates, and there's a personal ID update letter template. If you want to mess with all that, just send us an email at support@creditversio.com. Ask for it, and we'll send it over to you in Word format. Next question. I wonder if I should still paint on Capital One if it is in collections. Okay. So Portia, if it's in collections with a third party, I believe you mentioned it was with a third party collection company. If it's bought by a third party, whoever that is, ERC, Convergent, Midland, whoever, LVNV, then the relationship that you have with, is it Capital One? Yeah, Capital One. The relationship you have with them is now over. So they no longer can take payment from you. This is from the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. If they have sold that debt or farmed that debt out to a debt collector, then you're going to deal with the debt collector. Now, if they license that out or they farm that out to be collected, meaning they didn't sell the debt, that they hired a collection company to try to reclaim that debt from you, sometimes that will go back to Capital One and you can negotiate out with Capital One. But if it's in the hands of the collection company, it's in the hands of the collection company. And if you were to call Capital One, they're going to tell you, hey, we no longer have that account, and they'll direct you to the collection company. Okay, Lauren said, I'm wondering the same thing. I don't see it on the app as an option. Oh, okay. So I must have missed something in the conversation. Lauren said, maybe you're having with somebody else. If you have a question, just clarify it, and I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. Okay, Johnson, I want to purchase a new car, and the late payments are in my way. Well, a couple things. It depends on how recent they are, and auto money is pretty loose. Like if you need wheels, you got to have wheels. You got to get them, and unless you're looking at getting some high-end car and you need to snake in or skate in there with like an 800 credit score or something like that to get approved, which is not likely going to be the case, then auto money is pretty loose right now. What I mean is they'll approve just about anybody. They might charge you have you put a bigger down payment, and you're probably going to get hit with some interest, a much higher interest rate. But, and I've seen this happen many, many times before, if you got to get a car, get a car. If you can afford to dispute for a little while, 2 or 3 rounds, keep your fingers crossed, maybe something comes off, but don't drag it out too long. Get your car. You're going to be paying a higher interest rate, but the great thing about autos is it's a collateralized loan. It's an asset. You can refinance it, sometimes with the same bank, and get a lower interest rate. That would be my best advice to you. Okay, let's see. Another question, Johnson the Queen, a lot of questions. And should I add my photo ID and proof of address on my Credit Versio? Yes, absolutely. That is quick start video number 1. It's really, really important that the bureaus know who you are. So think about what they're doing. They have to make a judgment call that the person that is disputing this is really you. That's not the problem, because it wouldn't really be anybody else. It doesn't make any sense. Where the challenge comes is when they respond to you. A lot of times when they respond, they're going to be sending you very sensitive information about your credit profile in the mail. They don't want to do that unless they know who you are and where you live. Okay, that's why they want a photo ID and they want a recent proof of address. Don't worry if your address on your ID isn't correct. They know it's probably not correct. Mine isn't correct. I just moved a year ago. I'm not about to go get a new driver's license because I might move in another couple years or so. But what is correct is my Nevada gas bill, my Nevada electricity, my water bill, my insurance statement. All that stuff is accurate. That's why they want a utility bill. So you can add any utility bill as long as it's connected to your house. So a cell phone is not a utility bill. Chime is not a bank statement because Chime doesn't have a physical address, but you can use a bank statement. You can use a pay stub if you want. You don't need to show any of your financial information. But the bureaus want to get an address, a proof of address from a place who has checked your identity. That's the key thing. The bureaus want to go, okay, so Nevada Gas and Electric or Nevada Energy checked David's ID and ran his credit to verify it was him. Why would he be buying electricity for a house where he doesn't live? It wouldn't make sense. So when you send in a utility bill, the bureaus understand that some due diligence was done, and they're comfortable sending you correspondence to that address. Speaking of which, don't get creative with this stuff. What I mean by that is, today I had one of the guys in the office come into my office today and say, "Listen, you've got to see this." Somebody added their proof of address and blanked out the address. They also uploaded their picture ID and blanked out their address and their face. Now, I've been in this business a long time. I've literally had thousands and thousands of conversations. I can't tell you how many credit reports I've looked at. I thought that I've seen everything. I've never seen that before. So when you upload your information, it's got to be your information. You can't blank out your address on your proof of address or blank out your photo on your photo ID. I know that nobody here is going to do that. I just had to mention that because, it's been years since I've seen something new, and today I saw something new. Okay. Let's see. Brian, any data showing any difference between sending disputes regular or certified mail? No difference. We already know the answer to that. We got that from not only Steve Rieger, who used to run TransUnion's dispute center on the West Coast. When I did that interview with him, he was the first to say, don't send certified mail. Okay, it's totally unnecessary. Certified mail, stamped mail, they go on the same conveyor belt. They get opened by the same machine. They get processed the same exact way. Credit bureaus have had the same addresses for, in some cases, decades. It's not like the mailman doesn't know where Equifax is in Atlanta, Georgia. It's been there forever. So mail getting lost, ever having to escalate into a lawsuit, you don't have to have certified mail. In fact, Steve made a really good point. He said the reason why certified mail doesn't matter, even in a lawsuit, that's really why people think they need to send a certified mail, so they have proof that they received it. Well, he made a really good point, and Steve Rieger has had to testify as an expert witness on behalf of TransUnion in who knows how many cases, hundreds and hundreds of them. And one thing he said that I thought was fascinating was, just because you sent a letter certified mail, it doesn't certify what was in it. You don't necessarily know what was in it, so it doesn't really help the case. I thought that was very interesting. So having said that, it doesn't really matter. Letters don't get lost. If something needs to be escalated to where you have to bring in an attorney, they're not going to go, hey, wow, we could have done something if you had sent the letter certified. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Okay. Michelle, should you pay collections or wait to see if they sue? No. Well, okay. You don't ever want to get sued, Michelle. That's bad news all day long, every day. For a collection, and that's one of the downsides or one of the possibilities about a collection, is if it's a collection company that wants to sue, if they have a history of doing that, they might do it. They might sue. So my position is always pay whatever debts you owe. I mean, not only is it the right thing to do, but you can save yourself a lot of trouble. because where there's lawsuits, there's wage garnishments and there's bank levies. Nothing like going to your bank one morning and finding out that you have no money in your account because the collection company was trying to serve you, couldn't find you for whatever reason. People like, especially in these cases where they have bad credit, people like go off the radar for a little while. And the collection company can't find them. The process server can't find them. The collection company goes back to the judge, I think 2 or 3 times, and says, "Hey, we did a notification. I forgot the terminology. There's a way that they can put an ad in the paper. I forgot what it's called. It's been a long time. As crazy as this sounds, and that services or that passes as servicing the notice that you are being sued, and the judge can give that collection company a default judgment, meaning you weren't even there, you didn't show up, didn't know about it, and you have a default judgment. Next thing you know, money has disappeared out of your bank account. Happens. I've had that conversation with people more times than I care to remember. Now, what you might do, this would be a very, I think, a smart thing to do, is dispute it first. Okay. Remember that example I just gave a few minutes ago. You have a debt with one creditor or with one collection company. You paid it, and then another collection company comes up behind you 3 months and says, "Hey, you owe us this money." So that's what the dispute process is for. It's your legal right. So I would dispute the account, make sure that they have a legal right to collect. A lot of times collections are the things to get deleted with the least amount of effort. And again, I'm not making any guarantees. I'm not saying that anything is easy to delete versus hard to delete. Is it in compliance with the law or is it not? What you find most of the time, or a lot of the time, more so than anything else, is collections tend to drop off with a little bit more ease than anything else. And the reason for that is a lot of debt is bought on spreadsheets. They don't have the information they're supposed to have. They can't prove legal right to collect. They bought it off of an Excel spreadsheet in the secondary debt market. That's very, very, very common. So to answer your question, I would say delete it. I mean, not delete. I'm sorry, dispute it. Hopefully you get it deleted. And then if they come back, if they're proving everything is on the up and up, settle with them. Okay, pennies on the dollar. Right now, collection companies are, with COVID and everything that's going on. And granted, I know we're coming out of it. Yesterday here in Las Vegas, everything is back to 100% normal, but that's not the entire country. And a lot of collection companies are wheeling and dealing right now. Make an offer at pennies on the dollar, maybe 40 cents, and say, "Hey, listen, in addition to that, I got to have a letter of deletion. You guys have to put in writing that you're going to remove this from my credit report in exchange for payment." Maybe they'll do it. Okay. If they don't, I'll give you a really cool strategy. Still pay it. Okay, honor the debt, still pay it. Then come back 2 or 3 months later, dispute it again. What happens a lot of times, especially with collection companies, is when there's no money owed, that they've got no dog in the fight. They might not even respond to the dispute, and the bureau might delete it, or they might delete it. They might look at that dispute and say, "Why is this person disputing it? They paid us. Let's just get rid of it." Okay, that happens quite a bit. Okay, Michelle, I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Portia, no, Capital One has it. Okay, so then it's not in collections. It's if it's charged off, they still own the debt. Then yeah, if you owe the money, pay it. I mean, that's my best advice. I know you're going to hear people out there never pay a collection. Well, I don't know how good of advice that is. Okay, what would the reasoning behind that be? Now, I know their argument might be, well, if you pay a collection, it's not going to help your credit score. Okay, that's true for FICO Model 8 and all of the older models. For FICO Model 9 and 10 and Vantage 3 and 4, a 0 collection has no impact on your credit report. Okay, so yeah, if you buy a house or a car, likely it's not going to help. But like I was talking a second ago, you omit a lot of those problems from surfacing when you have collections or charge-offs that are unpaid. If they come after you, if they decide they want to file a lawsuit, then that's where the real fun begins. Eddie, are the dispute letters mailed to the creditor or credit bureau? Bureau dispute. So maybe if you missed the first part of the call where I was explaining why you want to recruit the bureaus on your side, get them to work for you. Listen, bureaus aren't boogeymen. Okay, bureaus aren't your enemy. They're not out to get you. They're there to make sure information that they have inventoried is correct. They really do care. So we know several people who've worked at the bureaus. They are legitimately interested in having correct information in your file. To that extent, when you're doing a dispute, send it to the bureaus. Get them to send that dispute, forward that dispute to the creditor. If you've got a collection company, if you've got a non-responsive creditor, if you got somebody, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, the creditor has the power to intervene and be your best friend. They might delete that or correct it for you. So that's a good thing. Great question, Eddie. Johnson the Queen, you are very welcome. Looking for real stats. Portia, not really sure what that question is. Negotiated Capital One. They did not sell. Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but if you have a question, Portia, specific to that, real stats, let me know. Credit Versio is great. It took me longer to print out and mail my disputes than to actually do the dispute process. Mike, it's going to get a lot easier now that Air Sweeper is in effect. And by the way, Air Sweeper isn't that thing that we're done with it now. Those are just the first 6 or 7 errors that the software is looking for. There are certainly more, and our development team and the team here, the credit experts, we're still grinding into it, looking at reports, finding out how we can refine that and make that even better. Thanks for the comment, Michelle. Thank you so much. You are very welcome. Okay, let's see. Eddie, you are very welcome. Yenny, just sent my first round yesterday. I'm excited to see what happens. Congratulations. Make sure you watch your tutorial videos. I'm sure you're a good student. I'm sure you went through it and watched all 4 of them. Remember, it's a multi-letter dispute process. In the meantime, if your credit scores aren't where they should be, make sure you go into your tutorial section, go into credit coaching. There's a huge problem with a simple lack of understanding. In fact, I think, Mike, you and I were having that conversation a little while ago, maybe on a live when I had John Olsheimer with me. And it's shocking that how important credit is, yet we know so little of it. I spend a lot of my time, and for the last almost 9 years, explaining very, very simple things that are easy to understand that nobody ever explained to us. All of us should have a conversation or be pulled aside in high school, or there should be some class in high school, first year of college at the very latest, explaining how important credit is, how it works, what you need to know, who's looking at your credit report, which is darn near everybody of consequence when it comes to living your adult life. In fact, it's what they call credit reports. If you've never heard me use this phrase before, but credit reports are adult report cards. It lets us know how we're doing in life. There isn't anything else that, when you're in school, and if you're paying attention, you're doing the homework, you're getting passing grades, you got a report card. But what happens when we're out in the adult world? Well, okay, the only real thing out there that people can look to and say, what's going on with this person? How are they handling responsibility and debt that's been put in front of them? How are they honoring their bills? That's why employers look at credit reports. They don't get credit scores, but they look at credit reports. Both my parents they're retired now, but they were San Diego police officers. My stepmother, the last, I think maybe 15 years on the police force, she was a background investigator. So she was the one that was part of the team that made a decision if that person's going to be a police officer or not. And one of the things that they did is, in addition to digging into your background, they're going to look at your credit report. I can't tell you how many FBI, CIA, DOJ employees that I've talked to who were like in the hallway. And this is a funny conversation I have with some of my employees at the company that I used to work at before, where it was comical that they'd be hiding in the hallway or the stairway, signing up for credit repair because they knew they had a background investigation coming up in 6 months, and they're not getting that promotion or whatever's going on, or that next security clearance if they've got unpaid collections or something on their credit report. So it was funny. It's like, hey, yeah, this is and they would tell you. They wouldn't tell you what they would do, but as soon as you pull that credit report, that PII section, the personal identifying information section on our credit report, there you see it as CIA, Langley, Virginia, or Department of Justice, or or whatever. So it's important to have really, really good credit. Okay. Let's see here. Are those legit? Portia, I'm sorry. Just for like do the complete sentence because I'm not sure if you're asking me about something that I covered a minute or two ago. I'm kind of going at a high pace here. Mike, yes, love how this is explained so I can understand it better. Awesome, Mike. Okay, very good. Well, we're really rolling here. It's already 40 minutes into the live. Um, Forgive me for the lag in the video. I know somebody had mentioned it. I can see it on my side. We'll get that fixed next time. Oh, speaking of which, there will not be a live next Wednesday. I will be in Florida for Credit Con. That's the yearly big seminar for pretty much the who's who in the credit repair, credit industry. So it's all of us and all the ancillary services around credit repair are going to be there. John Alzheimer, who would normally be with me next week, is also going to be at Credit Con. We talked about maybe trying to do something from Credit Con, but I don't know how feasible that's going to be. We are going to be on Eastern time, and I think John's got to leave right about 5 or 6. So I think that's going to be in conflict, but we'll see what we can do. So tomorrow, by the way, if you are not in the Credit Warriors group, now this is not us. This is the biggest credit repair group on Facebook. It's run by a friend of ours. It's called Credit Warriors. It's a private group, so you have to request to join it. Tomorrow, I will be in that group with a consumer protection law attorney, and we'll be going through talking about the FCRA laws and FDCPA and how to make disputes a little bit more powerful and people who are not are having some problems in their dispute process that they want to get some a little bit of a legal view. I don't want to say legal advice, but an attorney's view. He's going to be there. Then I will have Stuart Price. He's also an attorney. He specializes in FCRA and FDCPA law. He will be with me, I believe, the week that I get back from Credit Con. So I'm not sure what the date is on that, but I'll keep everybody posted. Any last questions? Let's see. I'm going to have withdrawals. Mike, I think you're going to survive, but you're a good student. I appreciate that. Any last questions? Oh, hold on. I think I missed one from Michelle. Can you get a report mid-cycle? I have 29 days till update, but I didn't send a letter because I was in the middle of a dispute when I found Credit Versio. Yeah, Michelle, you can, but here's the thing. You get a new credit report every 30 days. I'm just making an assumption that you have smart credit. Forgive me if I blanked out again. Every 30 days, you can have a new credit report through your smart credit account or your Identity IQ account. If it's less than 30 days, you're going to have to buy a new report. So with 29 days left, you really have 19 days left, and you can go into your account and you can order a new report. So I always advise everybody wait the full 40 days, but I understand your circumstances are a little bit different. If it's mid-cycle, you want to order a new report and pay the $19 or whatever it is, then you can. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you have any specifics, then just email into support and we'll answer it for you. Okay. Any other questions? Let me scroll through here, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay. Looks good. All right. Excellent. Well, that looks like it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I was really excited to tell you about Error Sweeper. Again, we'll not be here next Wednesday. If you have any questions that you think of a little bit later on, feel free to post them here. I do revisit this. I see posts that come in. I'll be happy to answer it for you. Thank you again for joining me. And, we got one last question before I was just about to jump off. What is the best credit report site to pull my credit that is more accurate? Conchetta. So Conchetta, they're all accurate. There's only one source for a TransUnion credit report, and that's TransUnion. One source for Experian, one source for Equifax. They all come from one place. What I assume you mean by accurate is you might be talking about your scores. Now, I could be wrong, but when people talk to me about accuracy, they're like, well, I get different scores all over the place. You're always going to get different scores all over the place. Every bureau, even though you might have Vantage score on TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, they are different versions. You're going to get a different score off of each bureau. There's over 100 different FICO scores. So you're always going to get different scores. And then depending on when you order that credit report, that report can be different day by day. When you order your credit report, and by the way, this is a very important distinction to understand. A credit report and a credit score are two totally separate things. You can get a credit report without a credit score, but you can't get a credit score without a credit report. So when you order a credit report, it's generated at that very moment in time with the information that is available, the most up-to-date information. Then the scoring model, which one it is, it could be hundreds of them, is going to score that credit report on that very day, at that very moment, and then that score disappears. Then it's no longer any good. So if you were to go get a new credit report tomorrow, and you either get a credit score from FICO versus Vantage, or a different form of FICO, or a different form of Vantage, your score is going to be different. So the credit report, the information, is only going to come from one place, and that's the bureaus. Doesn't matter if it's Smart Credit or MyFICO or Experian.com or wherever. Okay, or Credit Karma. Yeah, Credit Karma, Experian, Capital One, and they never have accurate information. That's why I asked. Well, the point I'm making is it's accurate at that moment that you pulled it. Now it depends on what you mean by accurate. If you have a dispute, if there's something on there that's wrong, then that's a different conversation altogether. But as far as the information that's on the credit report, it could be different day to day, depending on which creditors you have and when they're updating their information and what scores we're talking about. So Credit Karma uses a Vantage 3.0. Experian uses a FICO Model 8. So you're always going to get a different score. But as long as you got the credit reports on the same day and you look through the report information is going to be the same because it came from the same place, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. Again, scores reports are different. Okay, that's going to be it for me. We're coming up on 50 minutes. Thank you again so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, if I didn't get to anything, I'll scroll through these and I will answer those for you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see